Welcome back to the Inquisitive Analyst. My guest today is a learning and organizational development professional with extensive experience in organizational design, process improvement, talent management, and HR technology solutions. He has this experience with helping to streamline processes and helping to enhance productivity using Lean Six Sigma, using agile methodologies, and his roles have included leading large teams, developing data-driven dashboards, and driving strategic learning initiatives. So please help me welcome to today's show, joining us all the way from Calgary, Canada, Tobi Odunowo. Welcome, Tobi.
Thank you, Marcus. Glad to be on the show.
Now, well, you're very welcome. I appreciate you being on the show. Now, let's try and explore your hands-on experience, your strategic use of Power BI. That's the focus of today's discussion, and you've used it quite a bit in your professional roles. But first, let's start off by asking how did your journey begin in learning and organizational development?
Wow, that's interesting. I'll say first, I started out my career started out more broadly around HR. But at some point, I really wanted to do something that was strategic. I was working with a boutique consulting firm in Ghana. This was a while ago, and I just felt like just doing like the recruitment and those very repetitive things were not exciting to me. So I found an opportunity to speak to my boss and say, can we think about the future of this organization? And myself and my colleague, we used the balanced scorecard approach to look into the future 5 years from now and started to cascade down to what should be done today. And that's how I got excited about organization development. Learning just came as part of that because I was really passionate about people and ensuring that they had the knowledge that they needed for their careers and their work and just that continuous improvement mindset. And when it was time for me to make a decision on a master's program, I found this master's program that was in management learning and leadership. And leadership has also been, prior to that, something that was really close to my heart. So I found myself going to learn, management learning and leadership. And that's how I got in the learning space. But I've always seen like a relationship between those two areas. And yeah, it's that's like the 1 minute story of how that happened.
I like the fact you actually had this plan, this 5-year plan. Where am I going to be tomorrow, or 5 years from now versus where I am today? So you made a concerted effort to make a change, to make that growth,
Absolutely.
um, to build up in your career, and you understood from the very beginning what the low-hanging fruit was, what the lower value was in an organization. Yes, we all have to start there, but you also understood that you need to grow, not just your income, but also the value that you're giving to an organization. So I think that's really 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 helpful for our audience, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's fantastic to see. So now, how did your experience help shape your approach to organizational design and change management? You described a bit about organizational design, but how about change management in that?
Well, so change management, I think I started to get into change management when I had to work on HR technology. The past, I'll say 10, 20 years has been significantly, um, different from what it used to be. Like we've had technology come on and entirely just change the way we work. So my very first attempt at change management was when I worked with an energy company that was implementing a new HRIS solution. We had one before, and this was not like done full blown. So the headquarters had rolled this out, and I was working in one of the affiliates, and we were now told we needed to roll this out. And it was just like, roll it out, let people know, and that was it. But I felt like, well, there's a little bit more to that. We can't just hand a new technology to people and expect that they will use it and have no problems with it. So I started to look a little bit into what more could we do? How could we send out communication so they know what's coming? How could we have sessions to train them on what's different so they have the solution before this is a new solution? How do we just ensure that people don't push back on the new technology that's coming? So that's how I got to change management. It wasn't really a formal, getting into how this was formally done. It was an accident, and eventually I found myself, currently now doing change management the actual way it's supposed to be done and ProSci certified, which means I've now learned, all the actual techniques of getting change management happen.
Well, that's good. A lot of us fall into a career accidentally or a project accidentally. And I think it's what you use with that opportunity. So you took that opportunity and you decided to grow with it. Some people might say it's not for me and walk away. Some people might say, I'm only here for a bit and just do a bare minimum. But again, you're thinking about how can I use this to my best opportunity for not just for myself, but also for the organization. I think that's great too. Um, Now you've had experience with data-driven decision making. It's a lot of what you do in your job. And how have tools like, say, Power BI helped to transform the way that you manage learning and the way that you develop initiatives for the organization?
Wow, that's a great question and one that I'm really passionate about. I'll just kind of maybe give a background of how I got to know about Power BI. I'll say sometime in around the 2016, 2017 timeframe. I was looking for what's the next big thing. And, the thing about, that time was there was a lot of, promotions around data driven organizations. There was a lot around the fact that HR sits on a huge amount of data and we could do a lot with it. We could use that to bring insights to leaders. And I was working at the time in an organization design role and performance management, but the way the organization was structured, I was actually within the HRIS department. So I had the strategic view, but I also had access to people that worked on our data. So I started asking myself a question, how can I, try to make the best use of the data we have just as an attempt to start to build visualizations that could make sense to leadership. So I took a course on Udemy. During work, I will, break time, go into this Udemy platform and start to learn how to use Power BI. And I started from using a spreadsheet and, connecting that to Power BI and making sense of it. And from that, I was able to start to build visualizations. And one of the things I like to say, that I really appreciated that those early days is I needed to do, like in my role, I had to do road shows where I would, go to the different locations and talk to them about performance management. And in those meetings, you'll have union members who always come with their union agenda.
Yeah.
But for the very first time, for what they've experienced, I was able to actually show to them facts and figures. So when union members say that, oh, this is what HR is doing, I was actually able to show them trends over 5-year periods and all of that. So it was a game changer, is what I'm trying to say.
Splendid. Amazing. Now, in using Power BI, you're helping to improve team efficiency. You're helping to provide actionable insights for leadership. How can you help to improve that team efficiency? How can you help to provide actionable insights for leadership with Power BI dashboards?
Now, Power BI is a visualization tool, but it has a lot of, I'll say, power behind it. And no wonder it has the name Power BI, because the way it's built, it can take very complex data and simplify it. And that is one of my mantras, simplification. There is a lot of information in data. And unless that information is simplified, even the best of leaders might not be able to gain insights from it. So, in improving team efficiency, in helping leaders to be able to have the right insight that they need for decision making, all the questions I ask myself as I'm building the dashboard all relates to how can I simplify information so that it's easier and it's consumable. Of course, we want the dashboard to be pretty as well, just so that that appeal is there for them to want to, dig into it. But how can I make it so user friendly, but yet insightful? Like it gives that information that they're looking for. For example, trends over time, right? We many times as humans focus on the present, but the reason why we have data and the reason why we keep data is we can actually leverage data from history and show the trend to present. And it tells us a lot more than just looking, from a present point of view.
It's amazing. Fantastic. Yeah, and I think you've spelled out the important piece here. That piece of data visualization, that data visualization software, the Power BI, you have to make it user friendly and you have to enable it to effectively communicate the story behind data to your stakeholders. Next question I want to ask you is what strategies do you recommend for integrating Power BI into organizational processes for that better performance tracking, for better reporting?
So any visualization tool will rely on accurate data. Um, Many organizations, when it comes to data collection, there are no standardizations. So you have several systems that's collecting data. And in some organizations I've had experience to, working or consult for, I've seen that those platforms or those softwares are not collecting data the same way. So there is no unique identifier, for instance. So let's say, for instance, we have a payroll system that we used to pay people. And in that payroll system, the unique identifier for people is email addresses. And then we have another system that we're using for, let's say, performance management and all of those. And we don't have email addresses in it, but we have employee IDs. Now, it limits the possibility of being able to draw data from different sources, pull it together, and tell a story. So the first thing I'll say is that standardization of data across different platforms is one strategy that is important. I mean, I'll just say it's the foundational strategy, and then we can build on that. There are many more things we can do in terms of ensuring that the data collection itself is accurate. We when people input data, we can also build the systems in such a way that it helps us to like it will put like controls. So like you have a field that only text can get into, you have a field that only numbers can get into. All of those things are important because it's said garbage in, garbage out. If the data is not clean, we can never get the right information.
As a certified Prosy change management expert, what strategies do you find most effective in driving adoption of new systems, new processes, and tools like Power BI?
So for that, I will just say that I'll prefer to always talk about the ProSci approach, which is called ADKAR, which stands for Awareness, Desire, Knowledge, um, Adaptation, and Results, right? So it starts with us helping people to become aware of what these tools can do. And awareness is supposed to create the desire. Now, the thing I've found, with anything that's got to do with data, especially in the HR world, a lot of HR professionals are scared of data. When it comes to analyzing data, when it comes to numbers, people feel like, you know what, it's not my thing. Let's get someone else to do it. And that's so the awareness could happen, but because of that notion, it's hard for people to have the desire to learn how to use it. Now, not every organization will have an HR department that has a set of data analysts who are dedicated to supporting the HR department, which then means that HR people need to develop the data analytics skills because number one, they understand the data better. you could hire people who are data scientists to come work with HR. It's going to take them time to understand, right? So I'm talking about my own area, but so I always think about first awareness and desire. But one way to, if desire is not happening, is make sure that the awareness is all encompassing, which means that yes, this is a tool that can be used, but it's easy to use it.
Right.
And as we get into the world of generative AI, it's even easy. I'll give you an example of something I did this week. So this week, I've never written a macro for an Excel sheet, but I had to do that because um, I couldn't use Power BI for the work I wanted to do because of client licensing and all. But I needed to get this thing done in Excel. So I went into one of the generative AI tools that I have access to, and I asked this generative AI tool to write me a macro, right? And it took a while because, the prompt had to be right. I had to continuously tweak things and ask it more things as I got errors. I was, I was writing again to say, this is the error I got. Can you correct it? But eventually I got what I needed to get done. So that desire part comes with people understanding that this is not as complex as it should be. And once they have the desire, then they want to know. And that's where we get into the knowledge. And once they know, then they can adapt this new way of working, understanding that this is now the new world. Like we need to generate insights from data. We need to be able to show to our leaders in the organizations that these are the trends so that they can make decisions for the future. And then we get the kind of results we're looking for.
Amazing. And I like the fact you actually went into HR. And this is a key for our audience members out there who may or may not know this. 2 departments that you can work in that will be there to the last. Even if the company falls, it will be HR and accounting. Those are the last departments to close, the last departments to transition. So if you want a longer employment at an organization, join HR or accounting, and you'll be fine. You'll be set for life. You'll always have a job, basically. So that's a piece of advice that a coworker told me many years ago. With that said, Tobi, I really thank you for coming on the show. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, how can they do so?
Definitely, I would like to have anyone get in touch with me if they would like to. My name on LinkedIn is my first name, Tobi, Tobi, and my last name, Odunowo, Odunowo. LinkedIn is one good way to connect with me. I'm very responsive and I try to accept invitations from people that want to connect with me. So looking forward to connecting with anyone and having coffee chats, whether it be virtual or in person here in Calgary.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you once again, Tobi, and
Thanks.
wishing you a great weekend and a fabulous week ahead.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome. All right. Take care.